What if I told you a city overflowing with beauty, luxury, and prosperity vanished in a single morning? They had everything: wealth, power, fertile lands, and the freedom to do whatever they pleased. But behind the luxury was a people so corrupt, their cries reached the heavens, and God came down. Not with an army, not with a flood, but with fire. This is not just a story of destruction. It's a story of judgment, mercy, of warning, and of a man who dared to ask God, will you really destroy the righteous with the wicked? But before the fire fell, before the sky turned to flame, heaven listened. God remembered Abraham, and in mercy, he pulled one family from the fire. A story of destruction, yes, but also a story of hope for those who trust in God's mercy. This is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Long ago, in the ancient lands of Canaan, two cities stood tall in the valley of the Jordan, Sodom and Gomorrah. Fertile and wealthy, the cities were lush like the garden of the Lord, full of life and abundance, and travelers spoke of their luxury. But beneath their riches and beauty, darkness festered. These were cities without fear of God. Their people had turned from righteousness and justice. Violence, pride, and cruelty became their way of life. Their streets echoed with mockery and lust, not with songs of praise. They rejected the stranger. They oppressed the defenseless. They delighted in sin and called it freedom. The prophet Ezekiel would later write of them, now this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and needy. They were haughty and did detestable things before me. Therefore I did away with them, as you have seen. Even the angels in heaven heard the cries, the pain, the injustice, the oppression. And so Yahweh came down to see it for himself. One hot afternoon, Abraham sat by the entrance of his tent in the oak groves of Mamre. As he looked up, he saw three men standing nearby. These were not ordinary travelers. They were messengers from heaven. One was the Lord himself in human form. The other two were angels. Abraham rose instantly, as if something in his spirit knew these were no ordinary travelers. He ran to meet them and bowed low to the ground and said, "My Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat so you can be refreshed, and then go on your way." The three men agreed, and Abraham rushed to prepare a feast: fresh bread, curds, milk, and a choice calf. He stood by them as they ate, honored to serve these heavenly guests. After they finished the meal, the Lord turned to Abraham and spoke. The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great. Their sin is very grievous. I will go down to see whether they have done all that has been reported. If not, I will know. As the angels went ahead, Abraham stood before the Lord, and he did something bold, something only a man who truly knows God would dare. He stepped forward and pleaded, "My Lord," Abraham began humbly, "will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked?" He pleaded, "Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you still destroy it?" Abraham said, his voice trembling with courage and reverence, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating them alike. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? The Lord replied, if I find 50 righteous people in Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Abraham grew bolder. What if there are 45, or 40, 30, 20? Each time, the Lord answered patiently, for their sake, I will not destroy it. Finally, Abraham said, let me speak once more. What if only 10 are found there? The Lord said, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy. Abraham dared not ask for more. Abraham dared not ask for more. Then the Lord departed, and Abraham returned to his tent, his heart heavy, hoping there were at least 10 righteous souls in the city. The two angels approached the gates of Sodom, and the hour of judgment crept closer. As night fell over Sodom, the two angels arrived at the city gates. There sat Lot, Abraham's nephew, in the gateway of the city. He had chosen to live in Sodom years earlier, drawn by its wealth and fertile plains, despite its reputation for wickedness. When Lot saw the visitors, he rose and bowed low. My lords, he said, please come to your servant's house and spend the night. Wash your feet and rise early to continue your journey. The angels said, no, we will spend the night in the square. But Lot insisted urgently. He knew what the city was capable of. He knew what happened in the city square at night. The streets were not safe, not for travelers, not even for the innocent. Eventually, they agreed, and he brought them into his home and prepared a feast. But before they had gone to bed, a terrible sound echoed through the streets. Men of Sodom, young and old, from every part of the city, surrounded the house. They beat on the door and shouted, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out so we may know them. Their demand was not about hospitality. It was a violent, immoral demand. The phrase to know them in this context was a euphemism for sexual assault, an expression of Sodom's depravity and humiliation of outsiders. Lot rushed outside and shut the door behind him. Please, my brothers, do not do this wicked thing, he begged. But then, in a moment that has troubled readers for centuries, Lot made a horrifying offer. 7 example. I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do as you please with them. But do nothing to these men. They are under my roof. Lot's offer was shocking, a tragic reflection of the moral corruption he had absorbed from his environment. Even in trying to protect his guests, he showed how twisted the standards of the city had become. But the crowd only grew angrier. Out of our way, they shouted. This man came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We will treat you worse than them. They lunged at Lot to break down the door. But in that moment of terror, the strangers revealed their divine power. They struck the mob with sudden blindness. Panic spread. The men groped at the walls, stumbling in the dark, unable to find their path. 8 example. Lot stared in shock. These were no ordinary men. These were messengers of God. The angels turned to Lot. Do you have anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you. Get them out of here. We're going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord is so great. He has sent us to destroy it. Lot ran out to find his sons-in-law. The men pledged to marry his daughters. Hurry, leave this place. The Lord is about to destroy the city. But they laughed in his face. To them, it sounded like a joke. The idea of divine judgment seemed absurd in a city so confident in its wickedness. At dawn, the angels urged Lot again. Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters and flee, or you will be swept away. But Lot lingered. Was it fear? Attachment to his home? Doubt? The text does not say, but he hesitated. So the angels, in an act of God's mercy, seized them by the hands, Lot, his wife, and his daughters, and led them out of the city. The Lord had mercy on them, not because they were righteous, but because he remembered Abraham's plea. Once outside, one of the angels said, "Run for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you'll be swept away." Lot begged, "Please, my Lord, I cannot flee to the mountains. Disaster will overtake me. Let me escape to that little town over there. It is small." The angel agreed. "Very well. I will not overthrow the town you speak of. But hurry. I cannot do anything until you reach it." The town was called Zor, meaning small. Just as the sun rose over the land, Lot and his family fled toward the small town of Zor. Then it happened. The Lord rained down fire and burning sulfur from the heavens, not just on Sodom, but also Gomorrah. A storm of judgment fell from above. The sky turned red, the earth trembled. Buildings crumbled, fields erupted in flame. People cried out, but it was too late. Everything in the valley, cities, homes, gardens, livestock, was wiped away in an instant. But as they fled, Lot's wife turned back. She looked toward the city, her heart still tied to what she left behind. And in that single moment of disobedience and longing, something began to change. Her skin paled to white. Fine grains crept across her cheeks like sudden frost. Her arms stiffened. Her feet grew heavy, rooted to the ground. Then, all at once, she became a pillar of salt. God's mercy had pulled them out of the fire, but looking back cost her everything. But Lot's story didn't end in Zor. Afraid to remain in the town, he fled with his 2 daughters into the mountains. There, they hid in a cave, isolated and broken. There, a sad and twisted story followed. Thinking no man would come to them, Lot's daughters, raised in the moral filth of Sodom, got their father drunk, and each bore a child by him. The sons born of them would become the Moabites and the Ammonites, nations born in sin, nations that would later stand in opposition to Israel. 1D44, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah echoed through the generations. The prophets spoke of it. Jesus himself referred to it. The cities became a symbol of divine justice, not just for wickedness, but for a people who rejected God's ways and oppressed the innocent. What was their sin? In their wealth and ease, they became careless. In their pride, they became cruel. And in their freedom, they gave themselves fully to perversion, injustice, and violence. But make no mistake, judgment did not come in a moment. God warned, he watched, and he waited. Only when mercy had been exhausted, only when even the outcry of the oppressed reached heaven, only then did fire fall. Yet even in this dark tale, we also see a spark of mercy. God spared Lot. He remembered Abraham's intercession. He delayed judgment until the righteous were removed. This is a story of patience, a story of justice, and a story of grace for those who listen, turn, and remember the ways of the Lord. And what of today?
What if
We look at our world, at cities filled with wealth and wonder, yet pulsing with arrogance, violence, and perversion. We see nations such as the U.S. and Western countries, once shaped by biblical values, now embracing the very sins that marked Sodom. Perversion protected as freedom, arrogance praised as confidence, the poor ignored while luxury thrives, sexual confusion taught as identity, greed applauded as ambition, blasphemy disguised as boldness, nudity now a form of expression, corruption justified as strategy, prayer mocked while evil is paraded, and those who stand for God silenced. Many today live as if judgment will never come, swept along by a tide of moral decay that claims to be progress. But Scripture warns, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a disgrace to any people. Yet even now, there is hope. God still listens. He still saves. He still extends mercy to those who will turn, repent, and seek refuge in Him. Let every heart remember, the Lord is slow to anger, abounding in love, but He will not leave the guilty unpunished. The fire that fell was not just punishment. It was a plea across time, a call for cities, families, and individuals to wake up, to turn back, and to remember the God who judges also saves. In this world that so closely mirrors Sodom's corruption, following Jesus can feel like going against the current, a lonely path that many reject. Following Jesus might feel uncool. People may call us boring or old-fashioned. The pressure to conform can be overwhelming, and the voices of the world will often mock our faith and values. But remember, the people of Sodom followed the crowd into destruction,
Are you seriously
and their
reading
story
that right now?
is a warning.
Look,
We are called to be different, to resist the pull of the majority and stand firm in the truth. Jesus said, "Enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it." 1:79. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. The crowd does not lead to life, it leads to death. So refuse to follow the crowd blindly, as the people of Sodom did. Live differently, love boldly, and shine as lights in the darkness. In a world chasing shadows, Jesus is the solid rock, the true hope, and the way to life. Stand firm, therefore, in the faith, even if it feels uncool, because the narrow path with Jesus leads to life abundant and eternal.